Welcome back to the Missouri Baptist University Coaches Show here at Pregame, right before we get set to play the Lindenwood Belleville Lynx over on the Candy Stripe. We're joined by Coach Jason Buryanek. Coach, always interesting to go to Lindenwood Belleville, but before we get to that and their unique field, let's talk a little bit about last week's game. The big win against Taylor University. You guys come out with a 1-point win, fighting back throughout that entire game. Your mind has to be racing at that point, trying to figure out all the ins and outs as the points keep changing back and forth a little bit. You finally started to get on a roll in the second half. What was going through your mind throughout that entire game?
Getting a defensive stop really was what was going through my mind, because the offense was playing really, really well. And defensively, we were playing really well. We just couldn't get off the field on third down. It was silly mistakes that we were making on third down, and that was something that we were just trying to get the guys to understand where were we going wrong, and then try and figure out what calls were we going to make, because they were started doing some things with running the quarterback on a zone read play, and we weren't making the play on the quarterback. So we had to make some adjustments in game there to help us as that game went on. But that's kind of where my mind was at. And then again, you kind of have that question mark of, is the offense going to be able to keep it going? Because every time that we answered, we kind of allowed them to come back and answer back. So the offense did a great job. Defense, they got the job done when they needed to, and in the fourth quarter they only gave up 7 points, and that was critical. So it was a hard-fought battle. I was so proud of the guys, how hard they fought, and they really stayed with it for 60 minutes, and that's what we talked about, especially at halftime. When we got that turnover right before half, that was a big interception for Eddie Calderon to make, and then for Kalen Petty to get in the end zone. I think that infused us with a little life, and we kind of gathered everybody and said, this is what it's going to take. You're going to have to just keep plugging away, and they did it for the entire 60 minutes, and it took almost every last second on that clock.
Let's talk about that drive right before half, coming down to the wire there. Taylor's trying to hang another one on you and really try to put one nail in the coffin into you guys at that time. And the defense, it's not only Eddie, but that whole play was set up by a great pass rush. There were about 3 guys who hit the quarterback about the same time. What a game-changing play that was. Eddie brings that down. You are able to score that touchdown. Talk about that moment and, how that changed the momentum going into the second half.
Well, it was critical. As a coach, you kind of put yourself in their shoes and kind of ask, what would you have done? And, I think they were making a decision to, like you said, put one more on and try and end the game before half. And truth be told, on film, we haven't been good about keeping teams out of the end zone right before half. So why not? I know they were feeling like, why not take a chance? And then you add, we had a 15-yard penalty that put them in really good field position. So it's one of those decisions as a coach that I'm sure a coach would have loved to take back, knowing the outcome. But it's a really hard call of what do you do in that situation. But Eddie made a great play. Got what really was bigger than the interception was his return. I think he had a 37-yard return after the interception. Gave us great field position so that we were in field goal range regardless of really what the offense did. But then for Kalen to really for Gunner to find Kalen, who was wide open, and Kalen to get in the end zone was critical. So, instead of being down 11 points and not sure, where we would be mindset-wise or if we would be able to overcome that full deficit, now we're down 5, and that made a big difference.
Looking back at Gunner's success, he's the Mid-States Football Association Offensive Player of the Week. Second time in team history you've had a Player of the Week. Tyler Hack won it in his sophomore year. When you look at the way Gunner played, he was able to find Kalen and really figured out that mismatch on defense pretty quick. They had a really small defensive back on Kalen, and he's going to beat that all day. Did that affect the play call that was made on the field on offense in order to get it to Kalen more because of that mismatch?
Well, I can't really get in the mind of the offensive coaches, but I know going into every week, there's certain guys that we need to get the ball in their hands. Isaiah being one, Kendall Davis, Sean Calhoun, and then of course Kalen, and there's other guys as well. But Kalen's big time target for us. So, give Gunner credit and the coaches credit of recognizing that mismatch, and Gunner did a great job of finding it. One thing that is helping Kalen is having these other weapons, these other Dalton Barkham playing at a high level, Devin Griffin coming in and playing at a high level, Isaiah, Sean, Mike Beekert. So we have some guys that are some weapons now that we haven't had in the past. And last year, teams could come in double team number 25 and take Kalen out of the game, and then it was hard on the other guys to really win. And that's not been the case this year. So defensively, I'm sure it's really tough to match up to us because there's a lot of weapons that they've got to try and take away in the pass game. So Gunner did a nice job, just kind of read the defense, took what they gave him, and the offense executed at a high level.
Let's talk a little bit about the run game in that game. You lose Kendall Davis early in that game, and he was very effective while he was in there. I know it was a little bit of a wrist injury, probably more precautionary than anything. Things stalled a little bit when he left the game, but Fred Kelly really came in and provided that spark for the team. A lot of speed coming out of the running game, especially from Kelly and Davis.
Yeah, and that's what we need right now. Our offensive line is full of a lot of young players. We've talked about that in the past, and they're getting better every week, but there's still a lot of youth, and their two defensive tackles for Taylor were really tough and made it hard on our center and our two guards. And so that's always a challenge week to week. And one of the things, Austin Schultz, obviously Antorio's been out with his knee injury, Tyler Curtis, they're great running backs. One of the things that makes it a little tougher is they're not quite as fast as what Kendall is or Fred. And so the hole closes a little bit quick. So it's kind of a difference of them getting through for a 3-4 yard gain, or Kendall, who might have a little bit of extra speed to get through, can then get to the next level for maybe a 10-15 yard gain. So as the offensive line progresses and gets just more experience under their belt, I think you're going to see Austin Schultz and Tyler start to have more success because they are very tough downhill runners. But speed is a tough thing to play defense against, and Kendall definitely has it.
You had your Griffin to Griffin connection throughout that entire game. You had Gunner Griffin going to Devin Griffin. Devin has really been outstanding on both sides of the ball this season. And offensively right now, he seems to be one of your go-to guys when you have Isaiah King in double coverage. What is it about Devin that makes him so explosive?
He's a competitor and he's an athlete. He is a guy who will attack the football. When he gets the ball in his hands, he's extremely athletic. I think he's hurdled guys in the past. He just wants to get that extra yard. So, and he's just a quick twitch guy. He is a little bit different than Isaiah. We talk about Isaiah having a kind of hidden speed because he's such a long strider. Devin's different. Devin is explosive. You can see his turnover in his feet, and he's a quick twitch guy who will make you miss. So. Just a big play guy.
Ethan Metzler comes into that game. And we couldn't do this interview without talking about Ethan Money Metzler. That is his new nickname officially. But he comes into this game, and it all comes down. You knew it at halftime. I was remarking to you off the air. We knew it at halftime. This was going to be a game that was going to be decided by a field goal. And I see him at half just practicing field goals left and right. He knew it too. And to have him come into that game and do what he did as the first time that he's ever seen action was exciting. What did you tell him going into the second half?
Nothing. I didn't tell him anything. In fact, I didn't. The only thing I told him was, you're up and go make it happen. So everybody on the team was so excited for Ethan. He is a guy who, when you look at him, he's the smallest guy on the team, but he is easily one of the hardest working guys on our team, and everybody sees it. He's not a guy, in fact, we have all of our kickers. They work extremely hard during practice. They're not hiding or trying to, get out of doing things. They work and they kick throughout the practice, but all through spring football, Ethan was out there every day kicking field goals all day long. And when we would move a drill that would maybe get to where he is, he'd jog down to the other end and he'd keep kicking. So I'm not surprised. I think somebody said it, one of the other coaches said it, that good things happen to good people. And Ethan's easily one of our best kids. He does everything we ask, works extremely hard. He is exactly what MBU University, our university and our program is about, and I couldn't be more happy and proud of a kid.
Before we get into Belleville, I just want to bring up one other topic about the Taylor game, and that's Eddie Calderon. He's been easily, him and Keenan Savage, 1 and 1A, and boy, did those guys really play well on Saturday. You're running the defense right now. How proud of those guys were you at the end of that game?
Extremely proud, because we didn't play our best football by any stretch of the imagination, but like I said, when we needed to get a stop or stops, we did. And Malik Ross played a great game. Keenan Savage played a great game, and Keenan's done this with one hand. He has a broken finger and has done it, and every time he made a play, he'd kind of hold his hand because it was affecting him, but he'd just line up and play the next play. Eddie was a guy that we challenged going into the week because he knew he didn't play his best game against Marion, and he really answered the bell, and we challenged him to get some interceptions, and he got 2. So that vaults him near the top of the league in interceptions, and I have no doubt that he's going to be locked in for the rest of the season, and I can't wait to watch those guys every Saturday. If you watch number 9 and number 5, they play the game the right way. And we have a bunch of guys that do. Sean Geary, he is a guy that, as a Mike linebacker, that doesn't get noticed. Connor Bomstead, I gave Connor the game ball after the game, him and Ethan, because he's just a selfless player. Connor has been here since day one, has been our starting strong safety, and I took him off the field in that last series knowing that they were going to throw and getting an extra corner out there to defend against the pass a little bit. And that's a tough pill to swallow. But Connor is just a selfless team guy, stepped up, took it, understood why the move was made, rooted his teammates on. And those are the guys that really kind of go under the radar. But, they are just huge contributors to that win.
Let's talk about this week. You guys get to travel about 40 minutes down I-40 over to the Barber Pole over at Lindenwood, Belleville, in a game that's sponsored by Advil. This is a game that I know the team really wants. This is a rivalry week for us. This is, I know, a game that you really want. A lot of guys have played this. I know Dalton Barkham played there. He really wants this game. What do you tell the guys throughout this week to temper those emotions and make sure they play within themselves?
Well, the same thing we told them every other week, which is our core beliefs. And the one thing that we have to be better about is emphasizing one game a lot more over the next. Now, there's no doubt we've made it, they know it's a rivalry game. You don't have to sell that to them, though. What we have to get them to understand is that what was the process that has gotten us to this point? What was the process that got us to that 1-point win on the road? And just be us. You don't have to be extraordinary. You just got to be yourself. And I think if we're able to do that, then good things are going to happen. I think in the past we've probably put too much into this game. There was maybe too big of a spike early. When things don't go your way, there was a little bit of a panic. That was something that didn't happen against Taylor. So we have just emphasized that we have got to work harder now. We've got to work, be more attention to detail. And the nice thing is that you're able to go into a last week's film session and see a ton of mistakes on both sides of the ball, but we're able to fix those mistakes with a victory. So, I think the guys have really taken it in stride and just know that this is another game, a chance for us to do something that we've never done, which is go on a win streak. We have never won back-to-back games. So they understand the challenge that's there, and we just keep talking to them about the things we have all year.
Lindenwood Belleville this week has some different weapons that we've seen in the past. Usually they were a run-first team. Cam Harris has had some great games against us and really some great games in his career. He's no longer there. They bring in a quarterback from Austin Peay. They're going to have a little bit of a pass game, but what are you looking at in the film for this week?
We got to stop the pass. That's what they want to do first. So that's just something that we work on every day. I think that plays to our strength a little bit. I think for the most part we've done a pretty good job in our pass defense. So, but we've also got to be ready to stop the run. And obviously stop the quarterback run, because teams have brought a lot of pressure against this guy and against their offense, and he is very lethal when, you know, everything breaks down and he starts running with the ball. So that becomes frustrating as a coach, because you see your pass rush did a good job. They were able to get there. Maybe he slips out of tackles. Your pass coverage is doing their job, and all of a sudden you look and it's maybe a 7, 8, 9-yard gain. So, you know, we've got to be diligent. We've got to have our pass rush, keep him in the pocket, and then our special teams have to be better. That's going to be a key for us. Both of our special teams, I think, have struggled so far in the year. I think this is a game that is going to be who is able to make the best corrections in terms of special teams is going to have the edge in this game.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about special teams. You know, the wild bunch, as Coach Sweat calls them, came out. They struggled a little bit early, and then they started to really play well late, especially when Ethan Metzler came in. He started kicking the linebackers, really opened up a lot of stuff. What is a win this week with the special teams?
Well, number one, we can't give up any points on special teams, which we did against Taylor. We had a new guy in at a new position, and there was a little bit of a miscommunication that led to 7 points. So we can't have that. We've got to know our assignment. We've got to execute our assignment, and then we've got to make sure that they don't get big returns. You know, we don't want to give up field position in the punt game, which we did on Saturday as well. You know, we punted out of the end zone. We got a line drive kick. All of a sudden, they start with the ball on the 24-yard line. So we don't want to give them a short field. We need to make them earn it. And by driving the length of the field against us, that gives our defense a better chance of getting stops. Teams, that's a tough thing to do. Belleville so far this year hasn't been great at putting drives together and being consistent throughout that drive. So we can't give them short fields. We've got to make sure that we're not giving up points or good field position.
Coach, thanks for the time.
Thanks.
That's Coach Jason Buryanek. I'm Brad Seigan. I will be back with you here in just a few minutes, live from the Candy Cane in Belleville, Illinois. We'll be back right after this on the Spartan Digital Network.